show. Here we go with Annie Talks. Annie Talks. Annie Talks. Welcome to the show. Here's the host. It's Annie Talks.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Annie Talks, where we bring to you interesting stories about interesting people that you want to know about. I'm your host, Annie Rivera. Thank you for tuning in, and to those who have already subscribed. If you're new to the podcast, welcome, and I hope you enjoy what you hear. And if so, I personally invite you to subscribe. Annie Talks is brought to you by Luxwear Trends, affordable, luxurious timepieces for every occasion, luxury that lasts forever, and that's what sets us apart from others. Find us on Facebook and Instagram or visit luxweartrends.com. That's Luxe weartrends.com. My guest on this episode is stand-up comedian Joseph Luna, aka Joe Elcholo. Joe hails from the infamous East Los Angeles area. Then he moved to Fontana, where he currently resides. Joe performs Spanish comedy and is open for Pablo Francisco and Chris Fonseca. He's performed at all the big comedy clubs all over Southern California, from the Ice House to the Improv. In this episode, Joe opens up about his life living in East LA and how he's turned a bad situation into a good one. A near-death experience and the strong, unconditional love of his grandmother were the catapults that changed his life around. And it is comedy that keeps him going today. He says comedy is a crazy journey, but for this, he will always be grateful to comedy and to all his fellow comics. Here now is my conversation with stand-up comedian Joe Elcholo. Hi, Joe. Thank you so much for being on the show. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
I have Joseph Luna on the phone right now, who is a stand-up comedian, and we're going to learn a little bit more about Joseph, or Joe. And so, Joe, talk a little bit about you, your background, your hometown, where, your upbringing, and so on and so forth. Tell us a little bit more about who Joe is.
Joe Elcholo, is... well, my name is Joseph Luna in the first place, but, Joe Elcholo is just a nickname that I just created out of a friend of mine that passed away. So, I kept the Cholo because he used to always be like, hey, Cholo, and he passed away on my birthday. Yeah, I was actually doing a show at the Improv in Ontario, and he was supposed to be at that show. He never showed up, and it's, it's typical in the entertainment world where people would tell you they're going to go and, and they don't show up for some whatever reason. It's alright, come to find out that he passed away, so, so I ended up, I went from being called Shrek to, made a career change, in the sense of my name, to go by Joe Elcholo. And for the white people, it's Joel Cholo, So, but yeah, I'm from East LA. That's where I was born and raised. In the city of East LA, literally like in the heart of East LA, not Boyle Heights, not the surround. Everybody mistakes East LA as like Boyle Heights. No, I'm really in the middle of in the middle of, in the gutter of East LA. So that's where I grew up and, was born and raised there in the, in the times, when I was growing up there was, I was born in 82. So, I experienced, the gang epidemic, and it wasn't just gangs at that moment too. You had the gangs, you had the tagging crews going along. You had the party crews. So all these different, things were starting to pop up, and that's how, I ended up, getting into a gang, and, it went from, one thing to another.
So we'll talk a little bit about that, but I know that you use some of that, some of your upbringing, some of your, the life that you lived in your comedy act. But let's talk a little bit more about how you became a stand-up comedian. Talk about that, if you can.
Well, I've always been a funny guy. I've always been I've never. How can I say? I'm not a negative person. I've always, like they said, if you ain't laughing, you ain't living. I'm always positive. I'm always, always trying to laugh. That's my way of, getting high, and that's laughing. It's the cheapest and the best way to do it. So, I really never saw I would never really, like a lot of these comics, they would, they watch Richard Pryor, they watch all these guys, and they would be influenced. It really was, I was never really influenced by anybody. Like, I was just like, man, that's cool that they get to do that. Like, imagine you get paid to make people laugh. Like, that's just, that's just out of this world. Like, I'm in the hood, you don't, in the hood, your options are, either you work hard or you sell drugs or you steal for a living or you hustle, you don't have many choices of what, you're going to be able to do. So, I really never paid much thought to it. I just knew that, that's cool that people got, paid to, to make people laugh. And, it wasn't until I got older, I had the family, the kids, and I remember going to my, my first comedy club was at the Terror Improv, and I went to go see, Ralphie May, and I remember seeing him, and I was blown away. I was like, wow, man, this is just out of this world. And I always kept it in my mind, like, hey, man, one day I'm going to be a comedian. One day I'm going to sit there and I'm going to, I'm going to do that one day, never knew, but I just said it. I was like, a guy like me, I'm not going to ever make it, it's not reachable in my level, That's the mentality that I had, it was just, it was too good to be true, so I'm more of, a realistic guy where I just figure like, it's a white man's game,
Now, would you say that that was your aha moment? That was the time that made you think, wow, I could really do this, and this is what I really wanted to do? And would you say that he was your influence, or was there others that inspired you or influenced you?
He was the start. Like, he was the one that, was, Ralphie May was just the, where I was like, it's reachable. Because you would see these people on TV, you would see these people, I never experienced it, I grew up, like I tell people, just, I grew up in the hood, people always ask me about LA, and I tell them, like, look, I'm from East LA, like, I'm not, when you're a part of, a gang, or you're a part of, a crew, like, you're not able to go to too many places, you have to watch your back, you have to always kind of do all these things, so, when it came to, like the comedy, I was like, wow, like it's reachable. Like I'm right here. Like, they're so close, so I just remember, I always kept it in my mind that one day, that I was going to try it out. I was going to find a way one day and I was going to do it. And it wasn't until, I met a comedian by the name of Chris Fonseca. And I remember my ex, she was working at a hotel, and she called me one day, and she's like, hey, there's this comedian that's staying at my hotel. His name is Chris Fonseca, and I could not know. I was like, Chris, that might sound familiar, but then I was like, I remember watching him like in the Get Locals back in the 90s and stuff when you would, record stuff on the VHS. I remember, seeing a comedian in a wheelchair, he has cerebral palsy. I didn't know. I was expecting this dude to, like, finish up his act and then be like, what's up, But no, he was really messed up. And so she told me about this guy, and I said, ask him if he's the Cheeto guy. He's very famous for a Cheeto joke, about waking up with his dick being orange, because he was eating Cheetos last night. So I was like, it's a very funny joke, so she asked him, and sure enough, it happened to be him. And I was like, oh, shit, man, so I asked her, hey, ask him if we can get tickets to his show. And so she asked him, and yeah, sure enough, he gave us tickets, and then he was playing with the comedian Sinbad. you know, which I was like, Sinbad, man, I haven't heard this guy from, you know, he's from the 90s, you know, like, and I went to the show, and sure enough, you know, he saw us in the hallway, and that's when he was like, yo, you know, he's like, hey, you know, he tells my ex, hey, I didn't know, he's not ugly, and, you know, he just, you know, he's being funny, and my ex was like, no, I didn't say you're ugly. I'm like, I know it's comedy, he's joking, and ever since then, you know, me and him just really took like a liking to each other, you know, and you know, it was just like an instant kind of like bromance, you know, and it was like, wow, like it was meant to be for some reason, and sure enough, you know, I remember, you know, hanging out with Sinbad, and I remember, you know, like, he trusted me, you know, like I said, you know, I guess, you know, some people go off vibes. You know, I'm a humble dude, you know, I don't, like I said, I'm not here to, you know, screw anybody over. I'm like very genuine about success, and I like to make people, you know, that's just me. I'm a good cholo. That's why I always tell people, I'm a good cholo, you know. So sure enough, you know, this was on a Thursday, so, you know, I came back Friday, I came back Saturday. I mean, I was there all weekend. You know, I picked him up. I would, you know, push him in his wheelchair and everything. I was so excited just to be there. I mean, I'm like, dude, I'm in the room with Sinbad, you know, like, this guy's a legend. I'm in the room with Fonseca, but she's a legend to me, and I'm just like, wow, like, you know, what, you know, so that's how it began, how I started getting in the industry, which, you know, every time he would come in town, he would call me up, and I would pick him up, and, you know, take him to the hotel, and, you know what I'm saying, be his personal bodyguard and assistant, and I mean, Pablo Francisco, you know, all these guys you know, I started meeting, and they took a liking to me, you know, because they felt safe with me, you know what I'm saying, like, especially, you know, like I said, being a, you know, that, I guess, you know, when you're a gangster, you know, people, you know, there's two different gangsters, you know, they're the ones that you're like, I can't trust, and they're the ones that you're like, yo, I like him around me, you know, that's the good kind of cholo that I like. So I started hanging with Pablo Francisco, man. I started hanging, you know, with all these celebrity guys, and I was like, oh, shit. And then, so, you know, I kept doing that. You know, I would go to these parties, you know, these big mansion parties with these celebrities and football players, you know, because, you know, I just knew these guys, you know, and then, you know, just little by little just start picking up, you know, their movements. So that's how I fell into comedy.
That's pretty cool. That's awesome. So now you talked a little bit about, you know, how you became a stand-up comedian, you know, who inspired you, and, you know, what that moment was that kind of
that's just the moment of how I, you know, like, started hanging around. Now, when it came to comedy, that's something different. I'll go on a deeper side. You know, I got myself, you know, messed up really bad to where they amputated my leg. Got my leg amputated. I was dying. You know, I had made bad choices in my life that caused me to, you know, to die. I died twice. They brought me back. You know, all these things were happening in my life where, you know, I was like, you know, at one point I'm this big, strong, you know, guy. Next minute I'm in this bed, in this hospital bed. I'm losing weight like crazy. You know, you can see my cheekbones. You can see me. I'm weak. I'm fragile. You know, the doctors are only giving me so much time to live. So I went from, you know, this, you know, positive guy to this guy that's just, I lost hope. You know, I went through this bad depression in the hospital, you know. It was like the worst time of my life, and I just remember, like, I wouldn't wish it upon my worst enemy, you know, because it's one of the worstest things you can go through, man. You know, because anyone that goes to the hospital needs to realize that the vibe in the hospitals, it's a negative vibe because people go there, you know, because they're sick and they're dying, and there's so much, you know, there's so much anger, there's so much, all these feelings that, you know, it feeds off each other, you know, like bad feeds off bad, you know. So, I'm in this hospital. I'm in a bad situation in my life, like bad. Like I'm just like, man, I can't see my kids. I'm just, I don't even want my kids to see me this way. I mean, my grandmother is looking at me and like, I'm supposed to, my grandma's supposed to die before me, and I'm over here dying before her. So, yeah, I just remember, like, I just wanted to die. A lot of the times I was in that room, I just was like, I was ready to die. I was at that point where I was like, I want to die. I need to die. I didn't want to burden my family any more than I had to. Plus, I don't have that much family. You know what I'm saying? So, the main people that in my life at that main time was my grandmother, which was there every day for me. I can't really depend on my mom because she's not that type to really, wanna. She's not. She just can't handle that kind of stuff, So, me and my mom have a relationship more of a, like brother and sister than we do mom. So, and then my aunt, like I said, me and my aunt, the same thing. Like, we're more like brother and sister. She's my aunt, but we're like that. So, my main support system was, my grandmother. She's the one that was there every day faithfully, making sure that. And then the hospital that I was in, was a really fucked up hospital that they wouldn't even come clean my room. If my sheets had blood on them, they would like take forever. Like it was just all bad. It was just a miserable place. It was just like I said, just the surroundings. Everything was just where it felt like you were just in a jail, where they just do enough to keep you alive.
So talk about your turning point. What was the turning point? What turned everything around?
So now, so I'm in this whole bad situation. I'm a big believer in God, and I know His strengths. But when you're in a bad point in your life, that stuff don't matter. You're just stuck in a bad place. It wasn't until like I just really made that decision, like, what, God, just please give me that. I need, like, please just give me a chance. Not even give me a chance, just, if you're gonna kill me, do it. Let's do it. I'm ready. I'm ready to do it. And if you're not, if you're gonna, keep me alive, then bring me back and make me better. Make me a better person. And I remember, and I told him straight up, I wasn't like, oh, God, can you please? No, I said, God, either you kill me, let's do it, and I'll meet you, wherever. I'll meet you halfway or whatever. But if not, put something in my life that's gonna, I'll be a bigger believer. But you have to put something good in my life. I gotta, I have to serve a purpose, if I'm gonna go back into life. And so sure enough, I kid you not, I say probably after I did that with God, like I had that moment with God, I remember I cried. I told God, with passion. I said, what, I directed my message to Him. My hospital went from like, okay, you gotta stay here for another 3 weeks, to a week and a half later they released me, talking about, hey dude, you're recovering, you don't need to be here. So I was like, oh shit. So now I'm like, wow, I'm leaving the hospital. I'm all fragile, but I'm so excited, because I hadn't even gone outside, from the hospital. They didn't let me go outside for like 3 weeks. So when I finally got that fresh air, I was like, oh my God, to this day, I'll always smell air like it's brand new to me. I don't care what smell, because I don't know if you've ever been stuck in a place and not seeing the outside, but let me just tell you this, man. It's true what they say, man. With the sun, you grow, with the air, everything. It's a process, to grow as a person. So, I started, I'm just now, I'm at home now, and I'm just trying to figure out what direction, what am I gonna do now? I have no leg. I have to readjust. I have to learn how to do everything. And sure enough, the process came. There was a process of, waiting to get a prosthetic and learn how to walk and do all that. So all that finally came. And then I remember one day I was looking through my Facebook, and I was looking and I seen an ad from Rudy Moreno, and I seen, and he was doing a 6 weeks course for comedy, and I was like, wow, you know what? I think this is what I want to do. I don't know what or how, but I wasn't even the guy's friend on Facebook, but it just happened to be on my news feed. So I was like, so I requested him, and I sent him a message, and I said, hey man, I'm really interested, and he's like, okay, cool. So sure enough, he sent me, let me know how much the course was, and I was like, fuck, man, let me, it's I think it was like $275, and I was like, fuck, I didn't have that, I've been in the hospital, like, I don't have that money, any money that I got, I was always making sure that my kids were taken care of. So sure enough, I asked my grandmother if she can lend me that money. I said, Grandma, would you be willing to invest in me? And if you don't, that is okay, I understand. And she looked at me and she's like, if that's going to make you push forward in life to get you to do something, from what you've done before, then yeah, let's do it. So she lent me the money, and I remember I didn't have a way to get there. So I went and I stole a car. And the course was at the Pasadena Ice House. So I go to the Ice House, I'm right here in a stolen car. I park it in the back, So if I go there, I pay the money. I remember walking in, I'm this big cholo. And sure enough, so the class happened to be about 14 or 15 people in that class. I think that was one of his biggest classes. But that was his first class he was ever holding. So I was a part of his first class, so, it felt strange because, everybody, like, kind of looked at me like, what the fuck? Look at this big cholo, So I was like, so I got the looks, I was sitting by myself because nobody was sitting near me. And so it started off like that, but, and that's how I like I said, being funny was not the problem. It was just learning how to develop a joke. How do I make it into a joke? How do I tell a story on stage? I needed to know how to do that. So I remember, they started to, the first course, our homework was to write 3 jokes, So I remember I got out of class and I'm like looking around, making sure the cops ain't around. Like I'm just like, damn, dude. Like, so what I did is I got on the passenger side, and I sat down, because I'm just waiting for the cops to come get me. I'm just like, well, if they get me, at least they're gonna get me as an accessory instead of the main one. Or I could just say, hey, I don't know, I'm waiting for the homie, and he fucking, he stole his car. I mean, I don't know. I just asked for a ride. So I waited for like 10 minutes, nothing happened. So that's when I knew, okay, coast is clear. I got in the car. I went and I put gas. I left a note. Like I parked it like a block away. I left a note. I let them know I'm sorry. I didn't mean to like steal their car. I just really needed it to do something positive and thank you. And I didn't even steal their CDs or nothing. They had a lot of good stuff in there. So but like being a good person that I am, I even put gas in that sucker,
What came of that though? Did they find you or?
I parked it a block from my house, they found the car. Like I said, I didn't damage it or nothing, I just had like those universal keys. So I just had a key, I get from the homies, that they gave me like, hey fool, these keys they happened in broad daylight, so it wasn't like, like everything just went smooth. It was meant to be, so I ended up, like I said, I got back, I dropped the car off, I walked the block, at the end of the day, I gave the car back, I even put gas, and I didn't even damage nothing.
Right. Oh my goodness. So you were able to make something positive out of a very dark moment in your life and turn it around. And And because of that, your life experience, I mean, let me just go on the record by saying that we're so glad that, you know, you're here and that you've overcome such, you know, that huge monumental experience and, you know, life threatening and, you know, kind of on your deathbed. And, you know, I love I love the fact that you reached out, the part that you reached out, you had that private conversation with God and you said, you know, can you help me out? Can you make
I
things
demanded
right
it.
in my
See, a lot
life?
of people, they question God. See, I didn't question him. I demanded him. Either you kill me or you're going to make me stronger and you're going to get me out of this situation. See, you're gonna find the purpose for me. You see, if he's our Father, I need to ask my Father as my Father to do what's right for me. And since he's the creator in my life, that's why I demanded, you know, and everything happened the way it did. I'm telling you, you know, I went from having to have to stay another 3 weeks to a week and a half later, I was gone. You know, everything just started falling in place, you know, the prosthetic leg, everything, like, I didn't take no physical therapy. I would go to the gym with just one leg. I would go to the gym. I would get a crutch, and I would sit down and use the bicycle and use the crutch as my other leg, and that would just, with my hand, because I was determined. You see, I'm not that type to just lay down and die. I'm going to fight to the last, you know, string. Like, I'm not going to just let, because, you know, people have that, oh, I can't, pobrecito me, you know, like, there's no excuse because there's other people in other places that are a lot worse, doing a lot more. So what's my excuse? There is no excuse. There shouldn't ever be an excuse. Your downfall is just a downfall that you're putting yourself in. I was not going to be that guy. I was not going to be that guy that was going to be at home feeling sorry for myself. And yes, it was hard. I was down on myself. You know, it's an adjustment. You're like, wow, like, what the fuck? You know, this is some fucked up shit. But I always knew that, you know what, as long as I had God, I was always going to be a step higher. You know what I'm saying? God was always going to put me first in a lot of ways.
I hope you're enjoying this podcast episode. We'll be right back after this short message from one of our sponsors. Comfotherm Thermal Wraps are designed to help relieve the pain and swelling in and around the jaw, especially after wisdom teeth extractions. For more information, visit comfotherm.com. That's comfotherm.com.
After I dropped the car off, I went home and I wrote 20 jokes. I still got the paper of all the jokes that I wrote. I was so excited that I wrote jokes. Boom, 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 boom.
Wow, I'm inspired. I think this is a wonderful story to tell, and I'm so glad that you're telling the story. And I know this kind of puts you more vulnerable. But thank you for being vulnerable, and thank you for being honest and and sharing your story. And then, you know, I always love to hear the zero to hero stories. I love to hear how people overcome, you know, obstacles and dark experiences and turn it around and make it positive like you've done. So, you know, we have to commend you. I have to commend you. I feel, you know, my hat's off to you. I definitely, you know, patting you on the back virtually just to let you know that,
I just knew this, you know, my mission wasn't over. You know, if it was, God would have taken me, and that would have been it. So I went, I did 20 jokes. The next week I came back to class, and this time, I said to myself, okay, I'm not gonna put myself in that situation where I'm not gonna steal cars no more. I'm not gonna do none of that. I'm just gonna do it the right way. So, I borrowed my aunt's car. I took it. And I learned as much as I could, about the industry, because the hardest part about the industry is not so much, okay, now you know how to do a joke. But now the hardest part is getting out there, opening, these doors need to open. Like, who's this guy, I'm hanging around with the big guys, you're hanging around with the big fish. well, these big fish are not going to put a little fish that don't have no experience on their big shows because, you know, they have a reputation of, you know, to keep. So I'm not going to, you know, be able to go, you know, on these big shows and, you know, and suck. So I got to start in these small little, you know, venues, you know, these bar shows and...
Right. And I think why people are so drawn to you, first of all, because, you know, you add a certain flavor, obviously, to your comedy act. You bring that experience of, you know, growing up in the, you know, in the barrio or in the heart of, you know, the, you know, where something that we're obviously not attuned to and you have the knack of making, and I don't want to say make light of it, but you can find humor in even the darkest and deepest, you know, parts of your life.
And that's comedy, you know, that's
exactly
about comedy is that because, you know, just because you had it hard doesn't mean, you know, it has to be that way, you know, I love comedy, you know, comedy changed my life. So I owe it to comedy to, you know, to be a better person. You know, like I said, I stay away from all the BS and all the people. You know, it's a very grimy industry. I tell a lot of people. You know, a lot of people are on the outside looking in. You know, I'm on the inside looking out. So I know that, you know, a lot of people have hatred. A lot of people are upset that you're making moves and they're not, you know, and then they've been in the game a lot longer. And then you have the bullies, which is like the veteran guys. I think, you know, because they've been it, they automatically deserve respect. And so there's some more politics in it than what I thought. You know, when I first got on it, I was like, wow, you know, it's a support system. Everybody, you know, wants to sit there and help you. And, you know, little did I know that, you know, even family turned on me. You know, family turned on me, friends, you know, turned on me. It was one of those things where it was like, wow, you know, even my relationship was lost because of comedy, you know. Believe it or not, like, you know, you would think that, you know, by doing something positive, you would get more positive out of it, but no, it wasn't even like that. You really start finding out you start really finding out the people that are there for you, you know. I tell people, you want to find out who really has your back? Love yourself. Love yourself. And when they ask me, what do you mean? I'm like, yeah, look, love yourself, meaning you have to spend time for yourself. You're going to do for yourself. And people are going to get mad because everyone's so used to you doing for them that the day that you start doing it for you and focusing on you and dedicating time on you, see, people don't like that because people feel like you're taking away from them. Like, wait, what do you mean you have to go out? What do you mean you have to do this? What do you mean, you know, you have to go out there and perform, you know? Well, how do I expect to get better if I'm not out there performing? You know, I have to really start in the bottom, you know, like Drake said, you know, we're in the bottom, now we're here, you know, we have to start from the bottom. And, you know, how do I become a better person in the comedy world if I'm not doing the stuff that I need to? You know, I have to build, like anything, you know, you want to become a manager, you have to learn the system, you have to build those hours, you have to, you know, grind, you have to sacrifice, you know. And that, like I said, my story only gets deeper in comedy because it just wasn't like, oh, I'm doing comedy. Like, I had to sell drugs to continue to do comedy, so it only got like more difficult when I thought it was only going to get easier.
Did you finish that class? Did you finish that comedy workshop?
So, yeah, so what happened, so, you know, so I finished, I met a lot of great people, you know, I had a lot of great friends, you know, that came out of it. The end of the course, we performed at the Ice House. We got like a plaque, you know, and the next step was, you know, so, you know, you invite your family and friends and they see you perform, and I remember I was all nervous and like your graduation, so you're, you know, everybody's going up and I'm over here sweating up a storm, I'm nervous, I'm like, oh my God, like, you know, even though I had already done, like, you know, because you do, you know, you're out there doing open mics and stuff like that because you want to, like, get as much stage time. So when you do perform on stage, you know, because when you start doing your class, when you get on stage, it totally changes, because you can be funny individually with people, but once it comes to stage, that's when everything changes. You see, now it's you against everybody. So, and now, your family is there. Your family is looking, that's what I was telling new people, like, if you're going to do comedy, do not invite your family and stuff like that. Just go to these open mics and just, because you want to always get the best response from your family. Like, you want them to see you excel and be like, wow, fool, like, you really have talent. Because if you see me at an open mic and I suck, you're going to be like, hey, good job. But they're only saying that out of, because, it's a support thing. Hey, man, good. Yeah, let's just, hey, fool, good job. But if you really, if someone else asks him, like, how do you do, they'll be like, damn, that was suck, babe. But, as a homie, you have to tell them, hey, fool, you did great.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things where, so I always tell people, don't invite family and friends. Get better, and then when you do when you are better, do invite your friends and family. So when they do see you perform and you are better, they're going to be like, yo, man, keep pursuing that. You have something going on for you. And these are stuff from the, these are just, pointers that I got from a lot of the older guys, that they would tell me, Joe, like, just make sure don't invite your friends, family. Get better and then invite them. So when they do see you, they understand why you're doing it and stuff like that. That you do have a chance. So that's what I would do. So when it came to my graduation, I was up there. I still have my CD from that day of my graduation.
Oh, that's so cool.
I mean, if you look at my now and then, it's like, what a big difference,
Now, tell me real quick, what do you know now that you would do differently back then? What would you tell, like, your, I always pick an age, like your 21-year-old self. What would you tell your 21-year-old self or your teen self or your,
Well, I would have really encouraged myself then to do it early, just to have started off early. Because I know if I would have done it then, I would have been successful now. Because, it's you're younger, your drive is a lot hard, you don't have kids, and if you do have kids, you're only starting off with like one kid, So everything's a lot fresher, your mind, your drive, everything's a lot more, when you're older, life gets more complicated because, you're an adult now, when you're in your 30s, you have to really, you have to find, you have to, an apartment, or you have to pay your mortgage or your apartment or this, and there's much more. It gets more complicated because getting older means having more responsibilities. So I would have encouraged myself to have done it, and I would have encouraged myself to do a lot of different things. Educate myself better. Take control of my life. Don't listen to the dumbness, that people would, influence me on, stuff like that, I would have really just encouraged myself to have done comedy and, because right now I would have been up there. I would have had my name on the billboards. I would have been all that because I know all the type of comic that I am. Like I said, it's very hard to be a Hispanic comic as myself, a cholo, and be able to make white people, black people, love me. Because a lot of people can't do that. It's something that, like I tell people, like it's, you gotta understand, there's white people and there's hood white people, there's white people and there's rich white people, When I'm performing for the white people, I'm usually performing for the higher class. Because they're paying to see these, they're paying customers, they're doing this, and, so you have to be relatable to everybody. So I've been able to find that formula where I'm able to make, all the races laugh and really come to me and tell me, hey man, like, thank you and thank me, for making their day, their night, and which feels really good.
Awesome. Well, Joe, thank you so much for everything that you've shared with us. And again, like I said, for being vulnerable, being open and humble with, just all that you've experienced and even, being an open book, basically, to learn more about you and how that has catapulted you and made you the comic that you are. And, you've taken all of your life experience, good and the bad with the good, and you made it to, you made it into what you are now. And who knows what the future is going to hold for you. I feel there is a greater future for you. And everybody, just needs to trudge along. You just need to keep going. I think you're absolutely hilarious. When I saw you at Ontario, I knew you were just, I mean, you had me like in stitches and tears.
For believing in me, because like I said, not too many in this industry, a lot of people will, because you're funnier, they won't take a chance on you because, you never want to be outshined. And Vince Royo was the type that says, nah, man, I like comics that come here to work and make me work even harder for myself. You know what I'm saying? So I only get better, so.
Of course. Well, part of what this show is, part of what Annie Talks is finding the stories that, need to be told. Sometimes, they're hidden. Sometimes they're, no one knows about them. Nobody, even the talent or the person with whom I'm talking with sometimes maybe not are reluctant or don't want to speak their story or tell their story. But I'm thankful that you have opened up yourself to tell that story.
And I think only God knows why we ran into each other. Like I said, nobody wanted to go to the front. Nobody wanted to go to the front. I was like, dude, I'm a fan pincher, meaning I like to go and let people know and thank them, for making it easy for me to be on stage and be able to do it because, they were laughing. The guy before me didn't do so good. So, me going on stage was like, like I really have to bring my A game. So, I have to thank them for giving me that fire to do better. And
yeah, but for you, I think it's not so much, bring your A game. I think it was just being yourself that made you, made the humor come through. So, thank you for being yourself. Like I said, this just goes to me. It goes down to the fact that you're humble and you're vulnerable and you're open with your life and
I like to be reachable to people. Like I said, I'm not above anybody. Like I said, just because I'm on stage. I like to make sure that people, because people, if they're going to pay, they're the future that are going to decide, if I make it or not, because people are the ones that, they're going to pay, they're going to watch your views, and you connect, and you never know who you're going to connect with that can change your life. So I'm not one to, miss an opportunity. I'm going to be out there in every show. I'm always going to be out there. I'm always going to say thank you, and I'm always going to, smile and, make not everyone's gonna smile back, and that's okay. But for those that do smile, hey, I'm gonna return that smile, and I'm gonna do me. I'm gonna be reachable to people. So that's just the way I've been around too many big celebrities that they take it like I'm like, do you not remember when you were young and you were doing this and people want, you're waiting for people to take pictures with you. Now you just won't even give them the day and time because you're too big. Like. These people make it happen for you, These people are the ones that came to support you, They came to see you, Without these people, you would have not had a show, And I take it as, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to always make sure everybody, sees Joe Elcholo, And like I said, I was selling my rosaries, and they bought, so that was even better. I'm like, yeah.
Well, thanks again, Joe, so much for being on my show and being my guest, and I truly appreciate it.
So we'll have
yeah, absolutely. And if are you open to share with your social media with our listeners?
Of course, like I said, I'm reachable. Go to Joe Elcholo, and that's on Facebook and Instagram. You can also check me out on YouTube, Joe Elcholo. And if you don't know how to spell it, just put Joe Elcholo, you know what I'm saying? Or Joe Luna. I go by Joe Luna as well. You know, that's more for the venues that, you know, don't want to go by that name, which I understand, which is, you know, because it's a business. In the end, it's still a business. So, you know, I have to, you know, keep it, you know, business-like. So, yeah, Joe Luna as well. Joseph Luna is my name, and, you know, thank you for having me. And it's, you know, time went by quick.
Thank you so much. I truly appreciate it. Well, that's it, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Annie Talks and learning about Joseph Luna, aka Joe Elcholo. I hope you found his story to be very inspirational and motivational. I really love how he turned a very grim and dark experience into a positive one, thanks in part to God, his creator, his loving grandmother, and comedy. Be sure to follow Joe on Instagram and Facebook. I'll have the links in the show notes below. Now, before we sign off, if you aren't already subscribed to my podcast, I invite you to hit subscribe and be notified anytime we upload a new episode. If you are already subscribed, thank you so much. I truly appreciate it. If you could also please rate and review my podcast, please leave a comment or two. It would really help me out, and it would also help others to find this podcast. You can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. I will have the links to all my social media below in the show notes as well. And lastly, if you enjoy this podcast, please consider contributing to my Patreon page. Your contributions will help to further the vision and mission of Annie Talks so that we could produce more episodes like this one and many other types of episodes and topics. The Patreon page will also be included in the show notes below. Thank you all again for tuning in, and keep listening to Annie Talks.
Hello, everybody. This is Joe Elcholo coming at you live with Annie Talks.